listening to the Real FI Podcast, where we discuss time-tested tricks, techniques, and strategies for pursuing financial independence today so that we can enjoy a better tomorrow. Financial independence isn't about getting rich quick. It's about cultivating a foundation to grow financially, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Let's figure out how to kick the 9 to 5. Here are your hosts, Patrick and James.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the Real FI Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McGrath, with my co-host, James Rippion. How's it going today, James?
It's going well, man. I'm excited to get into this interview. I think we're going to get some good nuggets out of this one, so I think we should just kick it off.
Let's go.
So we're here with Hannah. Hannah, why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself and some of your story leading up to where you are today? So just fill in our guests with a little bit about yourself and your history.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Hannah. I started investing in real estate in 2020, March of 2020. I bought a duplex and actually just started house hacking in that. And from there, I've bought a couple other houses afterwards. My full-time job, my W-2 is I'm a travel nurse right now. And I'm also in the Air Force Reserves. So pretty busy, but it's been a wild couple of years. But yeah, just hit the ground running, I think, and just trying to buy more and keep going towards the goal. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, take a little step back from there and tell us, kind of what got you into real estate and really what you were doing before, travel nurse, or while you were a travel nurse.
Yeah.
If you decided that you didn't want to do this forever, kind of wind the wheel back a little bit before the whole real estate thing and give us an idea of what led you to even thinking about doing this.
Yeah, so I graduated nursing school in 2019, and I started out and I was like, this is great. This is so fun. I love this. I want to do this forever. I moved out of my parents' house at the time I was 21, 22, moved out, got an apartment, and was renting for the first time. Because before I had just done military stuff, they pay for your lodging, totally different. So I was paying for it. I was like, oh wow, I'm a real adult. I have an apartment. And then my boyfriend at the time, I started to think oh, maybe I should buy a house. It just makes more sense, to be putting money into a house. And he actually was the one that brought up to me, well, why don't you buy a duplex? And I was like, because I don't want neighbors. Are you kidding? I don't want to live in a duplex. That just sounds terrible. And he's like, no. There's nice duplexes, you could live on one side, live for free, rent out the other side. And so that's kind of what gave me the idea. He brought up Bigger Pockets to me. He'd been a long time listener, and I was just mind blown instantly. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. There's a whole other world. And then when 2020 hit, I was kind of yeah, I don't want to do this forever, nursing. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go more into this. So that's kind of how it started. But I definitely didn't think I'd be trying to get out of my W-2, but that's kind of what 2020 really made me ready to be.
I feel like everybody had one of those realizations in 2020 at some point, either about a professional part of their life or personal.
Yeah.
What is it about, the travel nurse or nurse, industry that kind of makes you want to maybe step back and build up your real estate or business more?
So I work 3/12s a week, which a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, it's awesome. You work 3 days. The 3/12s they're pretty exhausting. So right now, I did end up switching to travel nursing just to kind of build my income, make more money so I can invest more. But I just, at the time I was working at a full-time job. I think I started out making $22 an hour, and I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I work in the ER. So it's a rough environment. People burn out quick from there. So I think it just I burn out a little bit faster just because 2020, people were very anxious all the time. Lots of mental health issues, lots of violence. And it's just, got to the point where I'm like, I just know it's not something I always want to do. And that's kind of where I had the realization, that I wanted to start building something else for myself. Kind of on the side while I still am able to do that.
So being on the 3-day, 12-hour shifts, did that kind of give you some time to be creative with real estate and get into, other avenues of side hustles and building streams of
Mhm.
income, or is it really you're just too busy and like you're resting on the days that you're off?
No, the 4 days off are awesome because honestly, like even now, that's what we joke about still. Like, my boyfriend also works 312s. He's a police officer. So it's like the days we have off, we spend at our properties. Like we're not super handy, but the things we can do, we do. So yeah, even our days off, most of the time we are at the properties or, talking to people, going and looking at properties. So definitely, yeah, we definitely spend that time doing that.
I mean, I really feel like if you can handle the stresses and different things going on in the ER or as a police officer, then handling some tenant issues and some property problems are like, you're like, oh, this is really not that bad. I've seen worse. So
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, and so far we've been so lucky with our tenants. Like we've had awesome tenants, like no issues. That's always everybody's first question, like, oh my gosh, but like what about, the horrible tenants and like all the horror stories? But like we've been really lucky with that too. So I think that's also given me like a not a false sense of what it is, but it's been really great couple of years that way.
So
So
is it
why
true?
don't you go ahead, James?
No, you take it.
All right, I was gonna say, so why don't you break it, or why don't you break down for us like that first deal? Like tell us
Yeah.
what it was, how you found it, how you funded it. We have so many listeners out there that have just getting started or haven't started. So, break that down for us.
Yeah, so he gave me the idea to get a duplex, and so I was like, I don't know. I'm the kind of person like when I have an idea, I'm like, I need to do it right now. Like I'm gonna do it right now. Like I don't even care. Like I'll figure out a way to do it. So yeah, so I went to a bank. My dad was actually friends with a lender at a local bank, so that kind of made it easier for me to go. I was like a little intimidated, You hear these people in bigger pockets and they're doing like 90 deals and all this stuff, but I'm like, I just need to start with one. Like, so I went to the lender and he kind of explained to me how I could buy it. I wanted to do a FHA loan, and they told me I couldn't. So I just accepted that and did a conventional on it, which looking back, I totally regret, but I didn't know. So I did 20% down on that first duplex. It was 121,000. I found it on Zillow actually, but the owner was the realtor. So whenever I went, like the owners were the ones showing it to me, and I think they kind of like kind of fell in love with me and my story, and they were investors, and they were just selling off all their property. So they gave me a good deal. They brought it down like 10,000 for me. They're like, we really want you guys to be in here. So that was kind of how I got that. And I had to put, I think it was $20,000 down initially for that one, like with the closing costs and everything.
So where
So
exactly is your market, like where you're investing? Are you investing locally to where you're living? Obviously with the
yep.
house hack kind of situation, but like where is that market?
Yeah, so it's about an hour north of Pittsburgh. All of my properties are within an hour of me. So yeah, just right in my area.
That's exactly how I like to invest, within an hour
Yeah.
outside of my market.
Yep.
So you had to put 20% down on your house hack. Like you said, looking back, you were like, why the hell weren't they giving me the FHA? Like
Yeah,
you would go
yeah.
back now and be able to go to another lender. You'd be like, screw you, I'm going somewhere else.
Right, right. I think I was just so nervous too, though. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I kind of knew the lender. And so I was like, I can't go talk to anybody else. Like, I don't know how to talk to people about this stuff. So yeah, looking back, I tell everybody that's interested, I'm like, get an FHA.
You're like, that's my
Definitely.
dad's buddy. Like he's supposed to
Yeah.
be helping me out. I'm getting a good deal.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
really important information for people out there because when you're getting started, you're so nervous
Mhm.
and you're just taking everybody's word for it because you haven't done it. And
Right.
I think that's extremely important. But the good thing is putting that 20% down and being able to come up with that money up front, you had enough cushion in there in case things didn't go the way they have over the last year.
Right.
So
Yeah.
tell us about this duplex. So did it need some work? You said you got it for like 110. And I love
Mhm.
the part that you said that the seller was sold on you,
Mhm.
wanting you to buy the property. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Everybody tries to
Yeah.
take the transaction and like force it away from them personally and just make it a business
Mhm.
transaction. I think it's
Yeah.
really important to go into that a little bit as well.
Yeah. No, actually, and all of the other houses except the one single family I have, like the reason I got all of them was because I had a connection with the seller somehow. Like even if I didn't, the other duplex I ended up buying, I didn't know the sellers, but I reached out to them on Facebook, and it was the same kind of story. Older investors, they kind of fell in love with our story. They loved, they were sold on my story and like what we were trying to do. So that's so important, definitely.
They
Yeah, so
probably saw a
break
little
this
bit
one
of you in them too. So I'm sure they
Yeah.
kind of lived through you through that experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
keep telling us the details on this first duplex. 110 duplex. Did it have tenants? Did it need work? Where's it at now?
So it did not need any work. It was pretty much move-in ready, just some like painting of walls and things like that. Really nothing at all. It was perfect. So yeah, moved in there. There was a tenant in place and he's still there to this day. He was there 2 years before, like, single older man, never made a peep. Like I was the loud one. I was probably the annoying neighbor, but yeah, he's still there. He was awesome, is awesome. It was a great first property, definitely.
Well, talk to us
What's it
about
rent
rents a
for?
little bit. What was the
Mhm.
rental rate at? And you bought it, a little bit ago. Have you raised rents since then, or have you kept them pretty steady?
I've kept his rate steady. So he's at 675 right now, and that more than covered the mortgage for me. So I just left him at that. And I actually just moved out of there a couple of months ago and I haven't adjusted it yet. For him, I probably will keep it pretty reasonable just because he's been such a great tenant there. But yeah, we just moved out and I'm fixing up the other side now. So market rent for that will be about 850 on the other side.
I think that makes a lot of sense too. I mean,
Yeah.
like, is the extra $100, or maybe if you raise it 100, if he moves out, you could get 200, but you're going to have to do all this work, lose a couple months rent. I think that's really important for a lot of people out there too to understand is that for majority of investors, you're really happy just finding a really great tenant
Yeah.
and having them stay there. It's not all about pushing and maximizing and squeezing every cent you can out of your property.
Right.
Like,
Right.
so I
Yeah.
love that you brought that up like right here in the beginning because
Mhm.
people have a false sense of what, makes a landlord happy. And it's not
Right.
always just, getting more money.
And I think that's an
Right.
important lesson for new investors too. You don't have to be afraid of buying a property and inheriting a tenant,
Mhm.
especially if they've got a proven track record and you can substantiate that through your due diligence. Now, there are
Yeah.
opportunities for you to get screwed over in this process if you're dealing with a seller that isn't going to be upfront or honest about the rent
Yeah.
rolls or the rent collections, and they're just
Yeah.
trying to dump this property on you. Because I know that happens all the time, but it's also possible to inherit a really great tenant, not have to worry about leasing it up, not having to worry about how to vet a tenant.
Oh
And
yeah.
a lot of the multifamilies I bought and other rentals, each almost every, actually every single one of them has inherited tenant has been great, and no
That's awesome.
problems. Some of them might have we wanted to be a little cleaner, but they always paid the rents on time and they're always respectful
Yeah.
of the properties and things like that. But definitely not something to be
All
afraid.
right. Yeah. No, definitely. Because that's like, I think that's one of the biggest things that I try and focus on is keeping it like people first, especially right now while I still am working a W-2. Like, of course, I want to provide, I want to make money. Of course, I want to make money, but I also want to provide a nice place for people to live, an affordable place for people to live. And for somebody like him, who's been there now probably a total of 5 or 6 years, I want to keep him happy. I'd love for him to stay. Like, that's more important to me than, like, yeah, what you said, like making an extra $100, $200. Definitely.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right.
Yeah.
So you got this property, you're living on one side, you got your first new tenant, and
Yeah.
then where'd you go from there? Were you like, hey, it's time to buy another one? Tell us about that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what happened. So then it was like, yeah, so then 2020 started to happen. I bought it in February, and then I think it was October, I bought my second property, which was a single family property. I basically just saved all the money that I was spending on rent, and then my mortgage, and I just put that all away. I put $10,000 down on my second property. It was a $55,000 house, so not super expensive, but the rent and that was a little bit further away from me, but the rent for that one was $850, and it's been that it's actually a Section 8 property. So that actually worked out pretty well. It's in a decent area. So that was like a couple things. I mean, there's a lot with that house, but yeah, so October, November, bought that second property. Yeah, just with the money I had saved from just living for free. So that was definitely like a motivation boost for sure.
How was the condition of that property? I mean, you're talking about a $55,000 property, and that's kind of blowing my mind. I'm from Maryland.
Yeah, you're Maryland, right?
DC, so I've since moved to North Carolina. It's a little cheaper. Patrick's still up in Maryland. So when I think of $55,000 house, I'm like,
like the roof's falling in. Yeah.
Exactly. So tell us about the condition of the house. What kind of property are we talking about here?
I mean, I would say it's probably like C class. The condition of the house was good, had new roof, like new siding, like the foundation was good, all of that. Definitely in a lower income area, but it's a busy area though, like lots of jobs there. So I felt like pretty confident investing there. Even though the properties are a little bit less expensive, the market there has actually gone up though since I bought it in 2020, which was kind of nice to see. But I was also very like anxious to buy another property too. So, looking back, it may not have been like what I would do now, but it still helped me get going. And I still cash flow quite a good bit off of that property.
Tell us about that Section 8, because I know like I inherited a tenant that was on Section 8, but after I bought the property, they moved out. So I really I don't have any experience with that. I know the only other person that we've talked to on the podcast was Zasha, Invest with Zasha. So tell us about, everybody has this misconception, I believe, of Section 8. So, tell us a little bit about how that's been working out for you.
Yeah, so I was really scared to invest with the Section 8, not gonna lie. Like I was very nervous about it, but a couple things made me more confident in my decision. So the woman that was living there, she'd lived there for the last 7 years. And there we were able to like walk through the property before she took excellent care of it, very clean. She had a couple of kids, and she did pay a small amount as well, like with the government assistance. And I think those were a couple of the things that made me like, okay, like she's been here for a while, she's not just like in and out. And I also kind of liked that it is government income. So you get, just a check every single month. You don't have to worry about somebody paying, you're not getting texts in the middle of the month like, oh, I'm going to be late, nothing like that. Like you get paid it is slightly above what market rent would be too. So I think in that area, it would have been closer to like $750. So I was making $100 more than normal for that area. And yeah, I think it worked out great. The tenant actually this year, the same one's still there too. So she's been also awesome as well. She was another inherited tenant. Been awesome. She ended up getting married this past year, and she and her husband decided to go off the Section 8, and they've been paying the $850. They both got like better jobs, were able to improve, and they like make improvements on the house. They take care of the property, because that's another thing you can like stipulate with the Section 8. Like a lot of times they're in charge of taking care of the property, because I think a lot of it's just trying to get them closer to being independent, or trying to help them. And every year, like it's a reevaluation of their finances, of the house, of the condition of the property. And she did awesome, like every single time. So I was like happy for her whenever she was able to go off the Section 8, and she's been great, still paying every month. So that's been good.
I love
That's
it.
fantastic.
So you've got the Section 8 house, and it's working great. Like what comes next? Where are you at now?
So at that point, I was still working my full time, just like as a regular ER nurse. And I was kind of like, this isn't going fast enough. Like I need to be able to buy more properties. So the next year, I actually switched to travel nursing, and I travel it's over 70 miles, but still like local. So around Pittsburgh, I've gone like to the middle of the state. So I started doing that, and I bought a duplex the next year. So that was 2021. I bought a duplex. I did seller financing for that one. And yeah, in 2021, that's all I bought was just the duplex.
Okay. Well, tell us about that seller financing. I mean, that always comes with an interesting story, whether it's how you arranged the deal.
Yeah.
Just came across it, and a lot of it has to do with relationship building. So
That was
tell us about that seller finance deal a little bit.
Yeah, so I just started my travel job and I had saved up a bunch right at the very beginning. And I was like, oh, perfect timing. I'm going to start looking. So I was on Facebook Marketplace one day and I saw this duplex. It was in a little town, like right near me. It's kind of a little touristy area. It's like Amish country. Like they have a little bunch of stores and things like that. And I was like, oh, that would be perfect. So I found out it was a duplex. I messaged the owner and over Facebook Messenger, I was like, would you be interested in seller financing? And they were investors and she was like, well, how much do you have to put down? And I was like, well, I don't know, like how much do you want? Like I didn't know. I had just heard about seller financing on Bigger Pockets and I was like, oh, I don't know. Like now she's asking me questions. Like usually I'd asked a couple other people and they were all like, no, not interested. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I gotta write this up, like figure something out. But it worked out. I put 19,000 down on that property. It was 119 she had it listed for, and she took 19 down. We did a 5 year, it's a 5 year until the balloon payment, a 5 year mortgage with them until the balloon payment, we said, and then I'll get conventional financing after that.
What kind of interest rate did you have on that?
3.75.
Nice.
Very nice.
Good for
Yeah.
Very
me.
nice.
Yeah.
There is a lesson to be learned in the last 2 minutes of this podcast because, like you just said, you've asked a ton of other people and everyone just said no. And then you asked
Yeah.
one more person and they gave you a maybe and you were like, oh shit, what do I do? I didn't think this
I
far
was like,
ahead.
oh my God, I gotta like figure this out now. Yeah. Yeah.
Same exact thing with me. Like I've got a couple not 100% seller finance, but seller, carrybacks
Okay.
for the down payment. And yeah, it was just, I'm just going to ask everybody. And
Yeah.
someone finally said yes. And I was like, oh crap, like, what do I do now? And now that I've done it, like, that's my go-to. Like, I try to have like
Yeah.
every single property now have that on there. So that's
Oh, really?
fantastic. 20% down, 3.75 balloon for 5 years. So hopefully interest rates when that
I know.
balloon payment comes up is going to be back down.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what I'm hoping, but I'm also thinking like we've been great ever since this too. Like it's worked out awesome with this like couple. So I'm honestly thinking like in 5 years I may ask for a 5 year extension just because like, and they like me, like they actually signed for a bank for another lease I got afterwards, like that I pay on time, all this stuff. So I'm like, I'm kind of hoping that they'll do it for longer, but we'll see.
That's very interesting. They might want an interest increase on that next 5 years, but you never know. And I would definitely be willing to do something like that to keep it off the books. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's fantastic. So was this,
Yep.
and you said this was a duplex, right?
It is a duplex. Yeah, it's an up down duplex. The rents were very low in it. There was one tenant in it at the time. Rents were very low. I think it was like 550 up top, so like way below. I just think these people were just like done. They're like, just like get somebody in there. Like we're done with investing, like retiring. So yeah, so I took over. I did increase the rent upstairs, and then I actually remodeled the bottom. I turned it into an Airbnb on the bottom unit.
Very cool.
Perfect.
So how much is that Airbnb bringing in?
So the Airbnb right now, it's typically about 2,000 a month just for that lower unit.
Wow, that's fantastic. And this is like,
Yeah.
you said it's kind of touristy.
Yeah.
And have you considered renting the top out on Airbnb as well?
I have. I'm kind of just waiting for like the people. I think they're like looking for a house. I'm kind of waiting for them. I don't want to push them out, but I think that next year I probably will do another rent increase. And at that point, if they decide to leave, I would switch to the top one too.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk a little bit more about that Airbnb and how you got that going. So can you tell us a little bit about the investment that you had to put into getting it furnished and like what that cost and all the whole process of getting everything up and running?
Yeah, so the bathroom needed a complete remodel. I completely redid the bathroom down there, and that cost about $6,000 just for the bathroom. And then for furnishing and everything, I know I spent less than 2,500, so less than 10 grand total to make it into an Airbnb. So that was helpful too. So total about like 30,000 into that house.
Gotcha.
Where'd you get all the furniture and stuff from? Were you like big lot shopping where you
Yeah.
know, marketplace, Craigslist?
Yeah. I found a brand new sectional couch on Marketplace. So that was perfect because I was like, I don't want to get like a used couch on there, but I found it was like brand new. They just didn't want it. So that was awesome. And then everything else, I mostly Amazon, honestly. I found a bunch of great stuff on Amazon.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. All right, so then
Yeah.
once you listed it, how long did it take to get your first booking?
Well, well, I listed it and I was like, you know, nobody's gonna book. Like, I just want it on there, want to see how it looks. Somebody booked it for that night, and I was like, there's not even a lockbox. Like, there's not even like a door. So I had to go buy a lockbox. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is yeah. So the first day, yeah, I think total it's only been I've actually so like the nurses, my area, we have a couple local hospitals. It's kind of like right in the middle of them. So I've rented it out to like a couple PA students and then some travel nurses as well. So it's only been vacant probably about 2 or 3 weeks total since January. So that's been awesome.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
there's such a huge theme for every person that we talk to with their first Airbnb. It's like we're just gonna post the photos, we're gonna see what happens, and then like that day or within 24
Yeah.
hours, they have a booking or a couple bookings. It's like so amazing. Um,
Yeah.
and I really love like your just willingness to just try things and just see what happens. You
Yeah.
know, you're like, what's the worst that could happen? You know, someone's arm isn't completely off or like
Right.
whatever. Like it's not like a gunshot victim or anything. Like you're like, it's
Right.
just an Airbnb. Like,
Yeah.
oh no, I gotta go get a
Yeah.
lockbox and figure this out.
Right. Right. Yeah. I will say the Airbnb has definitely been the biggest headache. Like, I don't know if you guys like do them, I don't know, or like them. Like I'm not sure. So I was like, I'll try this for a year if it works out. I'm like, I'm still not sure. Like it's definitely a lot more maintenance upkeep than, just your typical long-term rental. But yeah, definitely I just like to throw stuff, see if it sticks. You know what I mean? I'm like, maybe it'll work out. But
And I
yeah.
think that's the huge trade-off with Airbnb is you're going to be able to maximize your income to an incredible extent, but it comes
Yeah.
with that much more work. You got to
Yeah.
furnish these places. You got to stay on top of the cleaning,
Yeah.
coordinating with the tenants and occupants. It needs to be a business,
Yeah.
or else it's going to turn into a full-scale job.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the trade-off between the long-term, short-term rentals, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
What would that unit rent for if it wasn't an Airbnb?
So right now, if it wasn't an Airbnb, I would probably rent it for about 800.
So I mean, you're getting an extra 1,200. I
Yeah.
mean, me personally, I would go to the upstairs tenants and be like, "Hey guys, you know what? I'm gonna give you a 60-day notice. I'll give you your full security deposit back plus a month's rent, and
Yeah.
your first month you would get all of that back. Uh,
Yeah,
and
for
then you
sure.
would have
Yeah.
2 units that you'd have the same cleaning crew and all of that, and it would be kind of around the same times when people were coming. I'm sure it would probably make a little bit more sense if there was,
Yeah,
two right there. And it
definitely.
sounds like you've definitely thought about it. All right, so we got
Yeah.
2 duplexes, a single family. Do you have anything else in that portfolio?
Yeah, so I just bought a single family house, like my own property. So that's what I kind of bought like this year. I was like we kind of outgrew the duplex a little bit, and I was just like I kind of want to be separate. Like that was the big thing. And I felt pretty bad about it for a while. I was like I really should just keep house hacking, but for my mental health, I think, and just for growing, I was like, it's not a bad thing to get my own house. I had to come to terms with that. And so yeah, I brought my property. So now everything else is just kind of separate. And I'm loving it. It's very nice.
Did you buy just a turnkey property, or did you plan on doing any renovations to it, any improvements or anything like that?
Yeah. So I actually bought it. It was on Facebook. It was some friends that I used to work with, like in high school, it was their mom was selling her property that she's owned for 30 years. So as you can imagine, everything's like pretty outdated. So I am going to improve it, and hopefully it's on 5 acres as well. So I get like mineral rights. So I am kind of making some money on it, which is nice. But But yeah, so just improving it hopefully, and then we'll see, maybe in a few years we'll sell. But
So you mentioned mineral rights, and I don't know if it's because of where you're located up in Pennsylvania. Down here in North Carolina,
yeah.
I'm a real estate agent. Every transaction we do will have a mineral and oil gas rights disclosure. But
Okay.
no one ever really does anything with it. And you said you might have some like more
Oh.
money associated with that because you have the mineral rights. Why don't you walk us through kind of what your thoughts are with that and how that might be significant?
Yeah, so it's through an oil company. Like I just had to call and set it up, and basically they send me a check every month for the gas, I guess. I'm not really sure, honestly, everything that goes into it, but yeah, that's pretty much all it is. It's just I own the rights to the property. That was part of the seller. Like she could have sold me the property, but kept the mineral rights. So it's kind of like a separate thing, but she sold it to me with the mineral rights. So honestly, I'm not totally sure how well that works, but it ended up working out because I think it's about $300 every month.
I was just about to ask, like, are
Yeah.
you getting like Taco Bell with this check? Or is it
No,
just,
like
like
it's
dinner
nice.
check?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely like pays for my insurance and all that. So that works out.
That
Pretty
sounds
cool.
like a solid investment to me. I mean, hey,
Yeah.
do you think investing in real estate before you bought your primary um made you buy something that was a little outdated and maybe needed a little bit of work over
Mhm.
just going for like, I've been working really hard, like I'm gonna buy that turnkey thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think just like I was raised, like my parents are very practical. They always taught us like, never buy anything outside your means. And like they're probably like they look at me, they're like, oh my gosh. But like I do still try to like look at something and think about what I could improve on it. Yeah, what I can add value to. It was definitely something that I looked at.
That's fantastic. I mean,
Hmm.
I think there's so many lessons to be learned here on this.
Hmm.
And I think this really goes into our next part of the conversation, James. I think you know where we're going. Let's get into that, buddy.
Which one are you looking at? You're talking about
I'm looking at your financial independence journey. Like, you know,
Yeah.
what are you really working towards right now? You've got 5 units, you just bought your
Hmm.
primary, you didn't go turnkey, you're trying to be practical, like
Yeah.
what's financial independence look for you? What's that rental portfolio look for you? Like where's your ultimate goal with all of this?
Mhm.
Yeah. So my ultimate goal would definitely be to at least match what I was making, like, or what I would make as a staff nurse, because I know that that's livable. So right now, I'm pretty much paying for my mortgage, and I'm still like living for free with my investments, which is nice, but you can't just live on that. So I'm hoping to eventually like replace not my travel income probably right away, but just what I would make as a staff nurse, and then at that point we could scale. So my boyfriend also has two rental properties as well, actually over in Ohio. So, those are bringing in some additional, and we kind of just trying to like, eventually like merge our portfolio, and then, go from there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at now. And while I'm still able to travel and kind of like make a lot more than I would as a staff nurse, I'm just trying to buy as many properties as I can until we get to that point.
Well, you got to keep relying on that W-2 income for as long as you
Yeah.
can to keep qualifying for those loans and keep stacking up
Yeah.
those properties for sure. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good strategy. Do you have a number of doors or anything that you've kind of calculated that would get you to that goal?
I think if we have about 20 doors between us, we will be able to do it. So right now we're halfway there. Like, we've got 9 rental doors. And I think once we get to 20, we should be able to be independent. Like at first, I think it'll be a little rocky just trying to figure out, going, I think like, I think a lot of people understand too, whenever you go from your W-2, it's like, and then just rentals, it's a little scary and trying to figure out exactly what is cash flow and what we need to put away. But I think 20 doors would be the number for us.
Well, I think that, highlights something important because when you have all these properties and you have this income coming in, it's not just all profit. And there's a lot of
Right.
things you have to mentally bookmark for future expenses with CapEx and maintenance and taxes and all these other
Yeah.
liabilities that come down the line. So it's really something that needs to be budgeted holistically for. And
Mhm.
you know, for the same reason you don't want to leave your job too early to lose out on the opportunity to have
Right.
loans. You don't want to
Mhm.
jump too early before you have a full understanding of the expenses that might come down the road with relation
Yeah.
to those properties.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Now you're at 9 doors, you're looking to get to 20. Right now, it sounds like, your largest property is a duplex. Have you
Mhm.
thought about going the triplex, fourplex, maybe a 6 or 8 unit property? I mean, in the area that you're in, it sounds like, the price per door, price per unit, isn't anything crazy.
Yeah.
So have you started looking at those? Have you thought about, jumping to medium multifamilies or anything like that?
I have, yeah, and I think that that's kind of what we're looking at next. That's what after we got, this property, like our home, I was like, I want to, try and like put a lot away for now, and then eventually we're gonna get. I would like to get like an eightplex, probably would be what I'm looking for next. So we've kept everything separate right now, my boyfriend and I think our next property will probably go in together. We want to get something a little bit bigger, yeah, fourplex, eightplex, something of that nature.
Yeah, I have to recommend
Mm.
going larger.
Really?
My biggest one, we went from a 4 to a 10,
Oh,
and
wow.
looking back at it now, and a lot of people say this, but you want to at the space you're at now, that's where we were kind of at 8 or 9 units, and then we just boom bought
Yeah.
a 10. Like,
Really?
you're ready for it. Yeah, you're already
Yeah.
managing 9 units. Like, you have it under control, and it actually ends up being easier. I know it's resounding what you hear from people, but it definitely ends up being easier having all of it right next to each other. And then
Yeah.
you can exponentially increase your cash flow on that, like probably more than double, if not
Or like right
triple.
overnight. Yeah.
Yeah, overnight.
That's
Yep.
crazy.
And especially if it was in a decent area, and you did 2 or 3 of them to nurses like yourselves or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
you could make that happen with one purchase.
Mhm.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would definitely be something we'd be looking into, I think. Because I think, yeah, that's like we could keep buying the duplexes, single family houses, but at some point it's like, yeah, it's a lot of work. And when you could just get, yeah, an eightplex, 10 unit, something like that, and then it's just one building.
Exactly. Well, it's a long
Yeah.
game, and you
Yeah.
started in 2019, 2020, and as time goes on, you're going to build so much more equity in those positions in the properties you currently have, and then it's going to become time to 1031 into something new, and taking down
Yeah.
those mid to larger multifamilies is just going to be that much easier because you're going to have the equity to
Mm.
just transition the capital over to down payment for the larger property. So it
Yeah.
definitely comes with time, and I know that's something that Patrick has been great at capitalizing on, is just shuffling around money in equity between properties to get into the next deal.
And what's really impressive is, I mean, let's not forget that you started at the end of 2019. I mean, so this is 2 years. I mean, in two
Mm.
years, you've got, you know, you've got 2 duplexes, you've got an Airbnb, you've got a seller financing deal where they're holding the note that's off the books. Um,
Yeah.
like, you've done a lot. Like, you've accomplished a lot in 2 short years. So
Mm.
I think this, whole story and everything is really amazing. And we have an idea of what motivates you in the short term and what that short term goal is. um
Yeah.
but tell us about what that, medium to long term goal is. I mean, once you hit that 20 doors, are you just gonna,
Mhm.
what, hang up the scrubs and, chill on your 5 acre farm? Or you and your boyfriend talk about having, like a 50, 100 unit goal or anything like that? What's that look like?
Yeah, I think like our main goal, like we would love to have, yeah, like 1,500 units. That would definitely be awesome. I think like our long-term goal is honestly just to eventually make it all kind of automated, give it over to like property management, and then just kind of like be free. Like there's, we have other interests. Like that's the thing. I would love to do nutrition and like nutrition coaching. And like, that's a huge passion of mine. I like to help people that want to be helped, like that sort of thing. So just being able to do things like that, where right now I don't have time, in the future. But definitely like scaling, once we get to the 20 units, I'm sure then we're going to want 50, but long-term, I think our biggest goal is honestly just to have like, yeah, just time freedom, like that's such a huge thing.
Well, considering that, everyone's biggest goal, and that's a common theme with a lot of people that we talk to, is time freedom, quality.
Yeah.
What do you think would be your biggest obstacle to getting there? Because you had mentioned you want to build some systems and some processes to build that business so that you can kind of step away and just enjoy some of the profits from your prior work. What would you kind of identify some of the obstacles between where you are now and where you want to
go? Some of the obstacles, I think it's going to be hard to give up the W-2 initially. Like I'm not going to lie. It's definitely like, it's a comfort blanket. It's definitely something that's going to be hard to give up, I think, for both of us, just initially, because it is a little bit scary. So that's definitely an obstacle. But as far as property management, I think we're really just waiting until we get to a point where it makes sense to do that and pay for that instead of just taking care of it ourselves. Right now, when it's still so small, I don't mind it. I actually kind of enjoy it. I like dealing with stuff like that and finding, people to fix things. Like I enjoy that. So, eventually it'll just be, just finding like a good property management. But that's kind of the biggest thing, I think, is just leaving the W-2s and getting to that point. But we're both ready. It's just the security blanket.
If you had to kind of like look at your like week to week activities, how much time are you spending on your real estate management? Is it like a huge time suck, or is it pretty easy to deal with?
It's very easy to deal with. I think whenever there's a turnover is just the biggest amount of time. Like just moving out of the duplex, and we have the new couple moving in next week. Just trying to get that all fixed up. That's just probably the biggest thing. And the Airbnb, like maybe an hour or two a week. It's really not taxing. And I'd say that's typical, just an hour or two for everything, honestly. Once the units are rented out. I feel like when you're looking for somebody, it takes a little longer because you're trying to like talk to people, do showings, things like that. But once that's all set up, an hour, 2 hours.
I couldn't agree more. That's one of the big things, and one of the big reasons that, Danielle and I still self-manage is because it really doesn't take as much time as people think it's going to take. And a lot of problems, can be solved with a phone call, a quick phone call, or, hey, this is not an emergency. We can get to it tomorrow or the next day. I thank you for making me aware of it, and we're going to get it handled. But not everything is emergency that needs to be handled like that second. And, you start to realize that, and it's a relationship thing. And like you said, right in the beginning of this podcast, it's about people first. So all of our tenants know us, know me personally, and they know that if I say we're going to get it done, it's going to get fixed and all that, it's going to get fixed, and it's going to get fixed in the time frame. It doesn't need to be done right this second. I don't need to drop everything and do that. And with that comes, it really is not that hard to manage all of this stuff. So, I'm not willing to pay guys like James 9 to 11, 12% to manage my rental property portfolio right now. But I will down the road, like you said, because of that time, because you have other hobbies. This is your means to be able to do that right now. Out of your W-2 that you realize that you're, it's just not for you for the rest of your life, and then give you the freedom to go help people in your own way. And real estate happens to be, that train that's going to get you there. So that's super, super exciting.
And I'll just throw this out there as the property manager of the group for third parties. A great strategy for any new investor who's starting to accumulate properties: build up a portfolio, and of course, learn what you're doing, manage yourself. But if and when you do become an opportunity and time in your investing career where you're ready to throw that over to third party management, you can get a discount on your management services too, because you're throwing over bulk package for properties to manage. So don't be afraid to ask for a discount if you're throwing them 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 properties to manage at the same time, because they might be doing it like 10, 11% for just one-off properties. But when you're sending everything over at once, it's consolidating a lot of headache for them as a property manager. So it doesn't hurt to ask for a discount too. So that's a little pro tip for you guys,
That's a great
do a
tip.
little bit more when you finally transition. Also, a good way to think about self-managing, you're basically doubling the profit you would otherwise get with your properties. Like maybe you're getting $100 a door with a property manager. Well, now that you're not paying them $100 a month, you effectively 100% increased your profit per door.
Yeah.
So especially when you're getting started and you're trying to build up that cash cushion, and you have the time to devote to it, like definitely 100%, like manage your own properties, because you're going to learn the ins and outs and know, most importantly, how to discern a good property manager from a slow, lazy, terrible one.
Yeah.
That is the key right there.
So
that is the key. Because
Yeah.
you're turning over your babies, man. You're turning over your little money tree.
Oh,
I
yeah,
look
and
at
it's
each
like-
property as like a money tree that blossoms fruit on the first week of every month. So
I never
like
thought about it that way.
I never thought about it
That's
until
awesome.
like 2 seconds as I was saying it. But yes, it's like a little money tree that blossoms fruit the first of every month. So
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
turning over the keys to that is kind of
Yeah.
tough. But that's really fantastic. I mean, I love your journey. I love what you've been able to do in the last 2 years, your other hobbies, like just that whole thing. I think it's really inspiring because, James and I started this podcast to talk to real estate investors of all kinds. We've had people with, 4 or 5 doors. We've had people with a couple hundred doors. And the biggest thing is all of them are getting outside of their comfort zone. They're taking that first step. They're putting themselves out there and they're going after their goals. And not all of them is to just amass a shitload of properties. It really is that time freedom, like James said. I mean, it's the resounding thing is everyone's doing this for a reason, and the reason is to buy back their own time. And that's exactly what you and your boyfriend are doing. So I think that's fantastic. And James, I think that it's time to get into the next segment of the show. We call this one
the Big Four.
The Big Four. So James, take it away.
So Hannah, I want you to tell us something that you do, your day-to-day personal, business, whatever it might be, real estate related, a hack, like a financial independence hack, money building hack, something that you do that kind of just feels like a cheat code to building wealth and staying on the path that you are.
A cheat code. I think something that really helps me is I have separate bank accounts for all of my properties. I don't know if everybody does that, but that's just something that we started doing and it helps so much. It helps like me keep an idea of what we're using for, cash flow. I take all of the repair money actually out of that same account. So it actually helps me see like every single month, just I'm a very visual person. So it helps me be like, okay, this is how much I have from this house, every single month. It just makes it a whole lot easier.
I think that's a great idea. I think, I think for anybody who wants to develop good financial habits, like even not just for for separate properties and bank accounts, like setting up separate accounts designated for separate expenses, like personal expenses, and then investing accounts for where you're going to save your money. That's key.
Yeah, definitely. It's probably not practical, like as I get bigger, to have one for everything, but I think eventually it'll go into like a business, type account, but that's kind of what I'm doing right now while we're still smaller.
I don't know. I think that kind of makes sense. I know I'm just lazy, so we've just always we have a checking and a savings for all of our rents, and it all just comes in one account and gets divvied up, savings and checking. And
That's awesome.
if something happens at one property, we're just using the savings for it. And at the end of the year, when I'm doing all the stuff for the taxes, that's when I find out how well we did on everything. So yeah, just in growth mode right now, but I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we call this next question resources. So are there any books, podcasts, people on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube that have really shaped, your investing style, inspired you, that you would recommend our listeners go check out because, they tapped something inside of you that has helped you on where you're at today?
Yeah, my favorite book, like in regards to real estate, and it's not really about real estate, but just something that really helped me was Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. That really like changed my whole perspective. So I guess two. So that one, and then it's called The Go Giver is one of my other favorite books about like business and just how to make your business about people and be. It's all about like being a good leader and leadership. So I absolutely love those two books. So everybody should definitely read those.
That's fantastic. I absolutely love that. James, what do you got?
So Hannah, for the next one, it's the future you. It's 5 years in the future. Tell us what your kind of personal life looks like, whether you're doing nutrition coaching or something else, you're out of your travel nursing role, or 5 years in the future, how does your real estate portfolio look? What does your business look like? Kind of paint that picture of your future self for us.
So 5 years in the future, I think I would still like to be managing the properties. I would like to be financially free at that point, no longer do nursing. I'm really into bodybuilding as well. So I'd like to focus more on like competing in bodybuilding and doing more of that. And yeah, nutrition coaching if I could, or, coaching that way. But yeah, just hanging out at home and getting to work out. Like those are my favorite things to do. So yeah, that would definitely be 5 years from now.
And you can tell that, like, those are the things that make you happy. And, I just love that you didn't say like, having 350 rental properties or syndicating huge strip malls or something. You just want to do the things that are bringing joy to you. So, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. All right, Hannah, this has been fantastic. I know I'm inspired from your story. I'm sure our listeners are inspired from your story. So if they want to reach out to you, for any reason at all, check out your page. Where's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
On Instagram, I'm at That Scrappy Investor. That's probably the best place for people to get a hold of me.
All right, everybody. Well, go follow Hannah on Instagram. If you're not already, you should be. Right after that, run on over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, then head over to Spotify, click that 5-star, subscribe. Go to YouTube. We have like 54 subscribers out of this point, which is abysmal. So we need to at least hit 100 people. We need to at least hit 100. And then make sure to go check out therealfi.com. And we will catch you all next time.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Real FI podcast, where you learn from the investors that have lived the hard lessons for you. To connect with us during your pursuit of financial independence, be sure to join our community by following us on Instagram or emailing us at info@therealfi.com. If this content made you financially, mentally, physically, or spiritually richer, please make sure to leave us a positive review on your preferred content platform. Cheers to kicking the 9 to 5.